Hello everyone, my name is Richard Gentry, President and Founder of RG Strategic Interventions LLC. I want to thank you for tuning in to this module. Whether you tuned in through YouTube or my website, which is rgstrategicinterventions.com, I want to thank you and welcome you. I'm going to share some information concerning relationship building with young people. Many of them find it very difficult to form positive and lasting relationships. And in regards to those of us who are in the field of juvenile justice or child welfare, or even in the academic environment, oftentimes we run into students or youth that are very sullen. They have the appearance of being defeated, not wanting to be there where they are, or not want to engage or attach with anyone, or even extend themselves to their peers. And so it takes a very skilled individual to be able to make a positive connection with this type of an individual. I recall as I work in facilities such as detention facilities or residential facility, and in my current role, I'm a detention manager and administrator. And oftentimes, as I take my rounds through the facility, I might see a new intake, someone that I'm not familiar with, and my custom is as such that when I see a person that I'm not familiar with, I will go to them and introduce myself. And on occasions, I'd find that person that's sitting there and he looks very angry and detached, do not care about meeting people or what you have to say. I'll extend my hand, and on occasions, they won't extend their hand to shake my hand. And we think, well, that's just a normal human type interaction, that if someone extends their hand to you, you should respond by extending your hand and shaking their hand. So do I take offense at that when a kid refuses to shake my hand, or if I greet a kid and the kid do not greet me? Should I take offense at something like that? Because this is common. We don't know the experiences that this kid has been through. Maybe he had, or she had, the unfortunate experience of having a tussle with law enforcement, and we know they're going to end up on the short end of that. Maybe they are just coming from a domestic situation in their home where a weapon, a knife was used. Maybe they destroyed property, damaged portions of the home. Maybe they were involved in some kind of a fight, or they were suspended from school. But typically when they come to us, especially in detention, is not on good terms. So it's just important for us to recognize the fact that they may not be in a mood to engage us in a positive way. And for many of the people that we work with in out-of-home placements facilities and in group homes, they just find it very difficult to put trust in anyone based on things that has happened to them. We've talked about these adverse childhood experiences during the early years of development, and how these events can have lasting effects on them even as they go through their teenage and adult years. They're still impacted from events that has happened a long time ago. So we should be able to recognize that although we're doing the right thing and extending ourselves, they may not be in that place to reciprocate that affection or the niceties that we may extend to them. So I want to talk about some basic tips on relationship building. That's the glue to any treatment program, any structure that we are putting in place, any effective work that we're doing with kids. Relationship building, and somehow getting these young people who tend not to trust anyone to trust us. Boy, that's a powerful task, and it's a tall feat to encounter. So I just want to, for the next number of minutes, talk about some tips, some things that we need to be cognizant of when it comes to working with this population of kids who oftentimes find it very difficult to trust adults because they have been Well, they've been mistreated. They, things just could have gone better for them in the past. So let's talk about that. Now, one of the things that we want to do with young people is let's greet them by their name. Let's learn their name. Let's learn some things about them. People like to hear their name. We personalize that encounter when we say, hello, Johnny, how are you doing? Hello, Rebecca, it's nice to see you today. How was your day? These kind of things mean something. And even if they don't say anything at the moment, it registers that this particular staff person has taken the time to learn my name and extend himself or herself to me and greet me and actually ask about my day, how things are going with me. For many of them, people could care less what's going on in their lives. They don't take much of an interest. So part of that process of getting to know a person is becoming familiar with them. How about finding something that the youth does well and talk about it? Maybe they like WWE wrestling. Maybe they're involved in a chess club. Maybe there's a particular video game that they enjoy. But find something that we would consider common ground and connect and begin to talk about those things. If nothing else, it may get that kid to open up to you, ask questions about something that they really enjoy. Let them know that you are learning from them. I found in my past working with kids that the more I can ask them questions, the more I can listen, the more I can take what they say in a way that is educating me, that young people can really appreciate that. They want to see us eye to eye. They want to be able to interact and relate to us. They don't want to see us as some unrelatable person that's just doing their job, and going through the motions of getting information and setting forth rules and regulations and things like that. Research reveals that they really do want to connect with adults. The challenge is they don't have a lot of experience connecting. Many of them don't have a lot of experience where they have ran into adults that actually care about them and care about their interests. Many of them are isolated and very private simply because people have never taken time to see what makes their engine run. So for us working with kids, if we do that, we are definitely ahead of the 8 ball. Because when we do things like that, it establishes rapport with those kids. So as we find out what a student does well, and then we begin to build on it, we're building self-esteem. So casual conversations are very important in regards to talking to kids about their interests. And as I mentioned, they're not necessarily accustomed to that. Keep in mind also that sometimes when we engage young people, they may not appear to be interested on the onset. Sometimes they have to portray that tough man mentality or that tough woman mentality. Or back in the day when I did direct care work, the term I would hear oftentimes from kids is, I'm not friendly. I'm not friendly. But basically we need to understand that relationships do take time. Doesn't happen overnight. Little by little, we're making a connection. Little by little, we're getting to know that person. Little by little, we are beginning to gain the trust of that individual. So proper greetings, being patient, understand that if a student is behaving a certain way one day does not necessarily mean that that student or that youth is going to behave that way the next day. I've had situations where kids may have not talked to me, may not extended their hand to me for a handshake, but then the next day or two when I see them, they remember that situation, and I don't bring that up. I'll speak to them again, and I find that at times they'll say, hey, Mr. Gentry, I'm sorry about the other day. I was just having a bad day. I was just in a really bad mood. I just didn't feel like talking. at the time. And so that really is a special thing when they do that, because you could see that relationship manifesting. So keep in mind that relationship building with this population, and for all that matter, with anyone, but especially with this population, takes time. Okay? When you're interacting, when you're doing program development, when you are setting the tone for the day, keep in mind that these young people tend to respond better when they see that you are interested in the learning process, that you are interested in interacting, that you are excited about the material that you are presenting, that you are excited about whether it's leading a group, that you are excited about playing board games with them. You are excited about interacting with them in small groups, whether it's on the basketball court, outside on the yard, but whatever it is that you're doing, be excited about it, because that's contagious. Can you imagine what it's like for a kid if you're opening your shift, you're sitting with the kids, and you have a negative disposition, a negative attitude? You're potentially setting a negative tone for your entire shift. And those young people see that disposition that you're in. But what if you're excited? What if you are enthusiastic about the day, about the shift, and you are sharing that enthusiasm with your kids that you're working with? They're going to really latch on to that, and it's going to set a real good tone for your day. So when you're motivated like that, that motivation is more than likely to catch on with the kids that you're working with. When you're making activities and assignments more meaningful and interesting, you are likely to have fewer behavioral issues with those kids, because they're going to be engaged. They're enjoying themselves. They appreciate the interaction. They're gaining from the interaction. Okay? So those are some things that we want to keep in mind. By engaging kids in a positive way, you are circumventing those residents who use inappropriate behaviors and attitudes. So the projects that you develop, the activities, the tasks, the cooperative learning experiences, whatever it may be, it builds self-confidence in kids. It strengthens their ability to interact. And we know in this day and age, most of our kids are in front of some type of a video game. You know, they're on social media. They may not have had the experience some of us older people have had that didn't have those, if you want to call them privileges, but we interacted with each other a lot more. You know, we had a lot more engagement. We were more out there, face-to-face contact, as opposed to behind video games and things like that. So for our kids to be able to experience board games and group discussions and learning in that sort of a fashion and engaging in that sort of a fashion is extremely helpful and important in regards to their pro-social development. So when we do these kind of things, it takes planning on our part as professionals. Let's make sure that we plan out activities, plan out our day, and have an objective when we're planning out these activities. And as kids engage, make sure that you're very complimentary to them. They love to be supported. Young people love to be recognized, especially in regards to positive things that they do. So compliment those that do well. And even for those that tend to blow off your compliments, understand that those compliments are powerful. They are receiving those compliments and is meaningful to them, even if it do not appear that way. I want to encourage you to avoid sarcasm, because although we may think that our humor is funny if it's aimed at someone else or someone else's expense, they may not think it's so funny. So let's be very cognizant of not being sarcastic with kids. Let's make sure that we're keeping the interactions positive and avoid that kind of maybe demeaning jokes and language, where others may be laughing and they're the butt end of a joke. And they may laugh along too. But keep in mind that that's hurtful. And they remember those type of things. And it really diminishes you as a professional. So enough with the horseplay, enough with cracking jokes on kids, back and forward and all of that kind of stuff when it comes to inappropriate language and behaviors that you may think is cool, but ultimately it leaves a negative impact on you and is not beneficial for the kids. You want to be a role model. You want to model the behaviors that you want to see or expect from the resident. Modeling behaviors is a very positive and effective tool. Being able to present yourself in a way that you want the students to see you, and they will reciprocate what they're seeing from you. You're modeling the behaviors that you actually want them to exhibit. So keep in mind that if you do that, you're certainly doing a very good thing. And I want to leave you with a few more thoughts before I close. Research teaches us that there is a praise to consequence ratio, which is 4:1. But in many facilities, we teach that more of a 6:1 praise to consequence ratio might be more effective. So every opportunity that you have to accentuate the positives, the better off we're going to be. Behavior change occurs at the 4:1 praise to consequence ratio, lasting positive behavior change. So as you engage youth by really looking for positive things that they're doing, complimenting efforts, recognizing achievement, that's going to go very, very far. So as you mix that with your programming, as you mix that with casual conversations, as you mix that with didactic teachings and the other types of learning that you present, the educational tools, even in the academic setting, as you complement, as you accentuate the positives, as you recognize growth and achievement, those young people are going to be more apt to want to do more of that, whereas they can be recognized even more so and appreciated even more. So we definitely want you to recognize accomplishments and achievements in these young people's lives. They have a history of failure, many of them. They have a history of not completing things. They have a history of making adults angry. They have a history of failed relationships. So as they interact with you and you are paying close attention to them, you're engaging them, you're recognizing their efforts and achievement, that goes a long, long way with these young people. So these are some things that I thought would be important for you to know. And don't expect miracles to occur overnight. Behavior change takes time. So the more consistent we are, the more positive we are, the more energetic we are, the more engaging we are, the better results overall that we're going to find. So with that being said, I want to thank you for tuning in. If you tuned in on YouTube, I want to thank you for that. I want to encourage you to continue to tune in and listen to future presentations and modules. If you have went to my website, rgstrategicinterventions.com, I want to thank you for that as well. And I certainly look forward to engaging with you in the future. So until then, we will see you.